younger children are experiencing a lot many more emotions than we did, and the fear of judgment has increased exponentially. I cannot share anything with my friends because what if they judge me? Or what if they use it afterwards to kind of,
bully me. Yeah. My immediate kind of reaction to that is social media is bad.
I cannot say that if I'm doom scrolling, that social media is good for me. There is no age bar to that. And that is why the attention span is going, because it's constantly having to process multiple things every 30 seconds.
What do you think parents and children can do differently? Hello and welcome to Out of Syllabus. This is where you'll find the conversations that don't exist in any textbook. Today we have with us Milind Sangha Gujral, an eminent psychologist who works with young adults and adults and has an absolutely fantastic take on life. So thank you so much for joining us today, Milind.
Thank you for having me, Prerna. It's wonderful to be here. And I've been really looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Likewise, I couldn't contain my questions and it was so tough to hold it in before the camera started rolling.
We'll have a lot to talk about.
I think so.
Yeah.
So Milind, could you just introduce your background to our viewers today and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. So I'm a clinical and counseling psychologist. I have done my master's from England. The reason I got into psychology was because I saw a lot of mental health concerns that were brushed under the carpet when I was younger, and I decided that maybe I could be one person who could bring the awareness to the family. I was always a different child, always questioning, all the norms and never conforming to what my parents said.
I can relate. And I think most teens can relate in any case.
Because, a lot of times, there is a set box people expect you to be in, and I never wanted to be like. I always questioned why that set box. So even though I had a background in science, I chose to go into psychology, which at that time was like my parents questioned that why are you going into from a science PCMB to a arts field, and I was like, because this is what interests me. People interest me. Understanding people and how they think interests me. So that's how my journey started. And I've been in the field for about 12 plus years now, but it has evolved.
Absolutely. In fact, as you were mentioning right now, I think about 15 years back, the notion was that psychology is a humanities field. But I think increasingly we're seeing it more as an allied healthcare field or, health adjacent. Today, if someone says that they want to go into psych, they're like, "Acha, science hi pad rahe ho. You want to do something in the science field."
So, funny enough, when I did my master's, I got an MSc degree.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
Now the concept has come to India about this being a part of the science thing. But at my time, it was BA, MA,
yes,
MPhil,
so this is also something I think is relevant for everyone tuning in. A lot of degrees in India today are BA Psych, but now the newer colleges, the liberal arts colleges which are giving out Psych degrees, they're actually BSc Psych.
Yes.
Not that it really makes a difference, I personally feel, because a degree cannot dictate your, what a journey you take in that space.
True.
You could go into consumer research, you could go into market research, you could go into clinical psychology, you could go into psychiatry, and there are very different ways of how the science is applied.
I also feel that, a lot of times it's the exposure more than the degree. Because every summer vacation, I would be working at some place or the other. Would it be a rehab? Would it be to get an exposure into what I was getting into? Because just studying from books and theories does not, because this is a field where you connect. with another
Yeah,
person on a
absolutely.
human level. And no amount of text can actually help you do that till you actually are engaging with people and understanding them better. So
Thank you, Milind. You just made my life easier because this is something we tell a lot of students when they want to go into something which is very people related, right?
yeah.
Or very technical, where you need to invest a lot of years before you get on the job. So I
True.
think whether it's psychology, whether it's anything in the healthcare space, even something like law, I feel,
It is.
you know,
I
it,
think it is always good to explore and experience.
yeah.
So I take internships as well from time to time.
Oh, fantastic.
And-
So, if we have anyone tuned in who's looking for an internship in Delhi,
Yeah. So a lot of internships offer observerships, which are not ethically correct, to be very honest.
Yes.
No client wants,
because it's
a third person.
confidentiality, right?
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
So what I offer is also role plays and things wherein you put yourself in the position of a client or the position of a therapist and try and work things
I
through.
love that, Milind. You're essentially training them or mentoring them, to get an idea of what a real world situation would
Exactly.
look like. Yeah.
And only when you're in the person's shoes can you actually realize and understand things better. So that's always been and that is in every field. I don't think
Yeah,
that it is only in
absolutely.
psychology, but even I the biggest conversation that we have these days is that AI might take over a lot of jobs. What people do not understand that maybe it can, but AI works on what we feed into it. The idea is still ours. So people don't understand the creativity we bring to the table. AI cannot.
I also feel that in the age of AI, human touch and connection is what is going to be the most valued. And I would always, at least personally, prefer speaking to a person rather than a screen. We are increasingly spending so much time on screen.
Absolutely.
And even friendships, right?
Hmm.
Don't you feel that a friend with whom you stay in touch with over the phone or over the screen versus sitting in person, grabbing a coffee together, sharing a laugh, isn't there a difference?
It is very different because we all bring our energies to the table as well to a large extent. And, it's just like sometimes you meet somebody and you just vibe with them. That's the term we use. What is the vibing? It is you connect on a personal level. And that is so interpersonal, and that is something that you are like, okay, this person gives me comfort or makes me feel safe. And that is what, in reality, when you meet somebody for coffee, that's what you're feeling.
Absolutely.
So,
As a wise Diljit Dosanjh once said, vibe teri meri mildiyan. Absolutely. So I love the vibe that we're sharing in this conversation.
yeah.
And I would like to also speak about the fact that once you finished a course in psychology, how do you then, get started in a career in this space?
So while I was studying, I did a lot of internships. When I was studying in the UK, I worked with old age homes because I wanted to see with a culturally different space how people were and how even mental health concerns get impacted by cultural differences. That gave me a lot of insight. Coming back, I worked with a hospital, did not like the setup, but I was like, okay, I'm getting to see more people and understand things better. And then I worked with a rehabilitation because the clients you get there are more clinical, psychology oriented. That gave me a lot of exposure. Though I started off with a bare minimum stipend and things like that, but I was okay because the experience I was gaining was very enriching. So that's how I started, and then moved to a different hospital and worked.
So essentially exploring and taking your time.
Yes.
It feels a little slower in the beginning,
Yes.
but at least you have the clarity as you move along that
Absolutely.
this is what I want to do
Yes.
and this is where
Yes.
I want to focus my time on.
Absolutely. And initially, I think working for other people also gives you a structure.
Absolutely.
Like now I have my practice, and I cannot say that all the places I worked for did not give me a lot to build this practice. They did, because I learned so much from them.
You learn processes, you learn
Everything.
the business side of things. How do you schedule clients?
Yes.
How many clients in a day can you see? Things
Yes,
like that.
Yes.
Very practical, right? Yeah. So having had that kind of journey, Milind, how did you end up zeroing in on teenagers and young adults as your prime audience, and of course adults as well?
Yeah. So initially it was more adults that would still come in for therapy, because with kids, a lot of parents were not comfortable sending them to therapy initially. But once I started doing workshops in schools and everything, I realized that younger children needed a lot more help, because in our times, I think there was a difference in the way we were brought up and the way schools and society was basically to what it is now. Like, there is a lot more pressure, there is a lot more exposure, there is a lot of fear of judgment, and even younger children are experiencing a lot many more emotions than we did, maybe perhaps in our day.
Yeah, why do you think that has happened? Sometimes I just don't get it. Like, yes, the world has changed a lot, but something has to have inherently changed for so many issues to be cropping up these days with the younger generation.
So I think it's also because of the social media. There is more exposure and there is more competition that is evident. Also, there is not enough coping that happens. There is not enough human connection. Even when we're talking to people, we prefer talking to a person behind screen than in front of us, especially for children. And the fear of judgment has increased exponentially, because I've seen that, when you go and talk to children and you ask them what kind of, issues that they are facing, it's always like, I cannot share anything with my friends because what if they judge me? Or what if they use it afterwards to kind of,
Attack
tease
me or bully
Exactly.
me. Yeah.
So, and that is also a lot to do with social media and the way it is being used.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we are chasing images or people that seem
That's
realistic, but they're
unattainable,
not.
and those are anyway highlight reels. And it's unfortunate, Milind, because even as adults, I think we have been in situations, we essentially, I guess, were the generation that grew up with social media being the new thing.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I spend hours on Facebook commenting on
started off
every
with
single
Orkut.
picture. Yeah, Orkut was very much part of the ecosystem at the time, and we would go comment on every single picture, and then after school we'd run home, and then on one picture there'll be a comment thread where a whole class is sitting.
Absolutely, I agree. Totally
and
agree.
statuses on Facebook. It seemed so fun and exciting at the time, and I think only now, almost 15 or 20 years later, do we really feel that, hey, this is something that's taking away from me?
To be fair, on the younger generation, we had a contrast. Like, we did experience life before the internet actually happened, and we can make...
And that's the key difference, right?
For children who are growing up with that, they have not really seen the other side.
Yeah, this is the only reality they know.
Yeah.
This is the only part of life they've seen. That's so true.
Yeah. And, through that acceptance that we would kind of achieve by going out, even if we got into fights or we got into like arguments with our friends, we had to face those people, and, we would resolve them over a period of time. But I think with this generation, the acceptance constantly comes from social media. So the validation is coming from social media for a lot of
So
things.
if someone tells their child not to be on social media, for example, that could be the worst thing from the child's perspective.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's excluding them from
it's not also fair, because the child will eventually, see, there is a peer thing as well that happens in every generation. We've been through that as well. So when a child feels that they are different from the others, it also hits or impacts their self-esteem. So I think going completely to an extremity of not giving them social media makes them more curious and do things that would, the parents would not even know. So it is in a way better to create that balance with the child. That okay, I've seen with a lot of parents what they tend to do is that they give their children time and they monitor the social media and everything, just to make sure that things are, going more streamlined without making it that I'm constantly, being
Monitored
hawk-eyed.
social media usage in a way, right? Where at least parents are involved and informed,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
not that you give your child a phone and then you leave it.
Yes.
That's what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
Right. I've also been reading a lot about this. There are a lot of screen time awareness influencers now, or people in the media who are talking about these ill effects of social media, right? Because the kind of bullying and the kind of trauma that these children are facing is something that we could never even imagine. Right?
It's true.
At 12 to be told that your body doesn't look good, that's the worst thing you could tell a child
but then
of that
it's easier
age.
to do that behind screen,
Behind
no?
a screen, yeah.
Because you can say anything behind a screen and not have to bear the consequences of it.
Yeah. And then
So-
there are fake accounts, there are like group chats, and not being added on a group chat. It's like, when we were growing up, it was like, okay, I haven't been invited to a lunch or a birthday party.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? I'll go to another birthday party.
Yeah.
But now if you're not on the group chat, you're just excluded. Right? The whole
Yeah.
ecosystem is different,
Yeah.
right?
And then it makes the child actually question themselves a lot, because also being able to share this has become difficult, because the relatability with parents who have not had social media when they were there, and now a child being so focused on social media is everything, the parents would think, why are you so hyper fixated on this, but not realizing that that's the generation we're living in now.
Yeah.
And for them it is important. So having a conversation and helping them understand that sometimes we are different and that's okay. We don't have those conversations in the house anymore. Like, we are constantly trying to also somewhere stick to our own roots and say that no, we also lived a life. This wasn't so important. It doesn't have to be important to you, not realizing that times have changed. And
It's
it has
like
become
I'm
important.
remembering, like I guess when we were growing up, our parents used to be like, you can't just watch TV all day.
Yeah.
And now I think parents are like, you can watch TV, just don't be on your phone.
Yeah. So I mean, see, that's the thing. The more we evolve, the more things change. So every generation there's going to be a change. It's just how we adapt to the change. Instead of pushing it away, trying to understand and creating that balance would help better.
So I also think something that I've been reading a lot about is the under 16 social media bans that a lot of people are proposing. And governments are passing it. I think Australia has already implemented it. And I think it's being tabled for discussion in several parliaments across the world right now. Certain state governments are already taking action against this in India. What is your take on this?
I think isolating a child might not really help, but in a way it can also promote a lot of self-awareness and more community building. So it has its pros and cons, definitely. I would not have with me, I don't see just one side of the coin, because there's always two sides, right?
Absolutely.
So as much as they will feel isolated from the world, over a period of time they will also start connecting with other people. So in a way it's a good thing that is happening, but then also in this whole situation we need to realize that just banning children from social media while the parents are constantly on it is not going to help, because a child constantly looks up to their parent for a lot of things.
Yes.
And if the parent is constantly on social media, they're going to question that why is it that the parent is allowed and the child is not.
Or rather, you're just kind of maybe suppressing that, or it's like a pent-up action or a emotion, right? And then you hit 16 and then you're just going all in. You're like, okay, my parents are always on the phone, so this is what adults do. And so I should also be on the phone. Oh, that's a very interesting perspective, and I had not thought of it like that, because personally, Milind, I work with so many teenagers and the decline in attention span is real. For ourselves too, with the amount of time we spend on social media. It's an
Absolutely.
active choice I keep making. I have many apps on my phone to like, control my screen time and all of that. But also with children, right? Because when you've been working with teenagers over so many years, almost a decade now, you see that 8 years back, this wasn't so tough. Why am I taking longer to get a child to open up now? Why am I taking longer? I don't think it's me, not that I'm not self-aware, but it's because the students are, getting more and more disconnected. Their attention span is changing.
Yeah, and I also think it's again the fear of judgment. Because trust has exponentially gone down, unfortunately, because of social media. There are so many attacks that happen on social media, and then people now also do the bullying that happens in schools has also increased because of it to some extent. Because
so the behaviors also translate offline. It's not just something that happened on a group chat today or or
if,
an account
let's say
today.
there is a group of 3 girls and they're like discussing the 4th person, they have on their group chat, they have enough confidence to go and attack her in person, right?
Oh yeah,
because they're like, we're on the same page, that means we can, and 3 is like more powerful than 1 person. So all those things happen.
That's so unfortunate.
It is
Absolutely. So when we see these kind of behaviors manifesting in our interactions with teenagers, my immediate kind of reaction to that is social media is bad. But what you're saying is that until and unless you're changing that entire behavior at a systemic level, where if social media is bad, then it's bad for everyone.
Exactly.
Right?
There is no age bar to that. I mean, I cannot say that if I'm doom scrolling, that social media is good for me.
Yeah.
And if I am, see, with reels, the reason the attention span is getting lower and lower is that because we are so hooked onto that constant gratification,
that dopamine hit, right?
Not realizing that our brain has more to process because it's taking in so much of information, change in scenario, change in words, change in tones, languages, etc. so quickly, change in themes of what we are watching so quickly, and that is why the attention span is going, because it's constantly having to process multiple things every 30 seconds.
And the algorithm is so manipulative, right? So I recently noticed, I woke up and I was having a great feeling around my surroundings and about myself, and I was feeling very calm and well rested. And then for about half an hour I held off, like, okay, I'm not going to pick up my phone, what else can I do? Okay, I finished meditating, I finished listening to a bhajan or whatever it was, and now I'm like, okay, now I need my phone. And then when I got on my phone, I saw just one kind of content, in different reels again and again. And 20 minutes later, I was very upset. I was very upset about something.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because your brain processed something in that. So we have experiences. Social media just adds on to see the brain cannot really differentiate between so much of reality and so much of what's happening. You know that this is all staged content, but the brain is processing it as content nonetheless. So it
so the information, the feelings,
it relates.
Everything
is
real
to different things
to the
that
brain
you've had in your life.
Yeah.
So then it starts upsetting you because something somewhere has triggered a part of you that might have happened in reality, that might have been a part of you but not really a prominent part of you, but now the sudden
and maybe it was just something underlying at like 3%, 4%, and now it's amped up to like 85%.
Absolutely.
Oh my god. Okay, before this turns into our therapy session or my therapy session, I will move on. What I'm understanding from our conversation so far is that social media is definitely not the pill, but banning it completely or taking it completely away is not the solution. We're just delaying that eventual emotional kind of roller coaster for the child.
I personally feel that having a conversation instead of shutting down about social media or telling your child it's not good, having a conversation having maybe a discussion about it would be healthier, because a child also needs to see perspectives. When I'm told that you cannot do that as a child, even from my parents, even now,
Yeah.
my first instinct is why?
Yeah.
Why can I not do it?
You are not the boss of me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a grown
Yeah.
adult and I am going to do what I want to do. But like not realizing that they have reasons behind it, and being able to understand their perspective would help me also get new perspective.
Yeah,
So-
that's so true. I feel even with adults, open communication has really gone down. We are all so scared of just sitting in the same room or sitting on the same
Yeah.
table and voicing our thoughts.
yeah.
And I have been trying to actively do that more often, even with the students and the families that we work with. I try to get everyone on the same page more and more often.
Yeah.
Because sometimes our reactions also surprise us, and that's I
Yeah.
think that's the beautiful moment for me in my work, at least, where I'm like, a child is so scared to share something with their parents that
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to do this subject and I want to do this instead, and the parents are like, yeah, fab, great, go ahead.
yeah.
It's a very gratifying moment
Of
to
course
see
it is,
that.
to be able to be at the receiving end of understanding that sometimes even if you're scared, it's not that we are scared of their response, we're scared of how we would react when they respond in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think I personally, when I see young adults, I honestly feel I learn so much more.
I agree.
They are so perceptive, they are so self-aware. It can have its pros and cons again, but I really look up to them for doing that, because it takes a lot to be able to do
Absolutely.
that.
I have to add, Milind, today when I work with teenagers, I'm amazed by their
Right.
self-awareness and just how strong of a personality they have. I feel at a time when we had to kind of discover ourselves and what we were doing in our
Yeah.
20s, they are kind of doing that now
Already.
at 15 and 17.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing.
It
My
is.
personal kind of caution to that, however, is to say that, you know what, it's okay if you can still choose to evolve and change from the person that you are today, and that's
Absolutely.
fine. Like,
Yes.
don't feel that this is who I need to be for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
That is my personal
And that's a beautiful thing, because that just takes off the pressure of who we need to be according to
Yeah.
everybody else, because every day we're discovering something new about ourselves, and the more we're able to be ourselves, the better it is for all of us to be
for
very
all of
honest.
us. Even I feel like with our parents or with our friends, we've known people for decades now at this point in our life, and it feels that, hey, it's okay if you want to change. It's
Yeah.
okay if you choose to evolve, because even if it's something as simple as, if I am committing to psychology, let's say a child is opting for psychology in 12th grade, and after 12th chooses to do business, so what?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Or after college, that fear that, what if I don't want to do this later? I
Yeah.
just want to say it's okay.
It is. And everything you are studying or learning, I don't believe that you're ever wasting your time, because you are
Absolutely.
gaining knowledge.
Yes.
And that in itself is very precious. I don't feel that when people say, oh, isne ek saal waste kar diya, I don't think that's a waste, because
Yeah.
even in that 1 year, if you were doing something different from what you've been all your life, you've learned something.
Yeah.
Everything is experience related.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of experience you're gaining from every part, person, place, etc. Even if you're doing a wrong course per yourself, let's say you've done MBA and then you're like, oh, this was not right for me. Whatever time you've spent in MBA, whatever people you've met, whatever teachers you've met, you've learned so much from them.
Absolutely. The experience is as
Yeah.
crucial
Yeah.
as the degree that you get at the end of it. That's something I always
100%.
say. I think it's so important to view these extremely important decisions of our lives
True.
still as something that happens one step at a time. It's
Agreed.
better to I feel it's better to still approach it that, hey, tomorrow if I wake up and I don't know what to do with this, I will figure something else out from something that I learned yesterday.
And that's the confidence you need to have in
Yeah.
yourself, because I think people around you will always have a concept of what they want from you, or what they expect, or what they think is good in you. But if you don't believe in that, you can keep doing whatever, but you'll never be happy with what you're doing, and that's going to lead to burnout.
Yeah.
So-
Burnout, another huge one for this generation, and I think for all of us in general. So keeping that in mind, what do you think parents and children can do differently today, to avoid that, whether it's emotional burnout or mental burnout or physical burnout even?
I think connect, where we started off, we've come a full circle.
Yeah.
Because I feel that, now it's about going out for lunches, going out for dinners with your child, not realizing that, are you really bonding with your child on an emotional level? Do you sit with your child for even, let's say, 10-15 minutes and ask them how their day was and how did they feel? I think we never talk about emotions. Emotions are really shut off. Oh, you're feeling bad, kuch nahi hota, theek ho jayega. Don't feel bad, it's okay. Or oh, you're feeling angry, anger acha nahi hota hai, don't feel angry. But not realizing the human emotions. And if they're feeling angry, even if they're like at 5, telling them it's okay, even I feel angry, but this is how you deal with this anger, or there are good ways of dealing with this anger, and letting it out of your system would be a healthier way to go about it.
Yeah.
So I feel in a lot of families, what can be done is be more emotionally aware. As parents, we can learn to be more emotionally aware as well. So a lot of parents have also been, shutting down what they've been feeling, and because of that, they end up shutting down the other person's, the child as well.
The child as well, yeah.
Because it's such an unknown territory. The emotional territory for themselves is such an unknown territory that they'll easily be like, oh, you know what, you don't have to experience this, or hota aise chalta hai. So
Yeah, so I think again we're coming back to know yourself better to know your child better.
Absolutely.
I think this is a very eye-opening takeaway for me as well, because so many times I feel there is so much pressure. Sometimes I really feel for that child, Milind, who's sitting
Yeah.
there, and my first interaction with students, a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, is, hey, listen, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what comes out of this session. You're going to be successful in life either way. I think just hearing someone say that takes so much load off their
it
shoulders.
does.
Because now the parents are like, what is the kid going to do? What is my kid going to do? If I don't start in 8th grade, if I don't start in 10th grade, where will my child go? My child's going to be left behind. Then the child is coming into that session. And then I'm also somewhere, or we as counselors, whether we are doing it intentionally or not, somewhere it is, we need to get a deliverable from the child, so that we go back to the parent and say, hey, today we accomplished this in the session.
Yeah, it's become goal oriented, wherein now it can be about understanding why the child is going a certain route,
Yeah.
or where do they see progress, or what works for them. So every child is different. I as a child was very different, because I could not ever learn, like I could never learn a sentence the same way. I still can't. And initially I felt that I was not good enough because I couldn't do that as a child, because everybody around me was writing these perfect textbook explanations, and I was there trying to understand the concept and write it in my own words. But nobody told me that that was okay. And it felt very isolating when I was doing that, or not.
Yeah, I
good
think
enough
that
because-
that's where our education system has so
Yes.
many
So-
gaps. And
But then, over a period of time, I started realizing that at least I understand the concept. I'm not writing it beautifully, but at least I know what it means.
Yeah.
And that in my life is going to translate in a different way. And I started becoming okay with it, even if others were not okay with it. And I think that felt very liberating.
Yeah,
In a lot of
that's that
ways.
character development, right?
Yeah.
It's about also kind of communicating, and this is where you come back to just having that conversation,
Yeah.
right, with students or with young adults, that
Mm.
hey, you know what, there is so much left for you to experience. I think that's the other thing with social media. Sometimes it can feel like this is all there is in the world. I've understood it all. I've seen it all. There's nothing more left for me, because you're living vicariously. I think that's something we can always go back and share in our individual sessions with the students,
Yes,
that
yes.
hey, you know, there's so much more you're
Yeah.
yet to do.
Yeah, 100%. And life is going to keep changing. We keep evolving as people. But um, I'll give you an example. So, yesterday I went with my cousins to an escape room. Okay. And the contrast was like people who were older to me by 6, 7, 8 years, and there were kids like 9 and 13 with me. And their brains are so much more sharper that they will try and figure out
Absolutely.
everything, while the other ones, they'll just look at, oh, what needs to be done, and keep thinking. And that was an experience in itself, because I feel even I, for that matter, might not have used that much of my brain in like a few years now.
No, absolutely.
And it was so refreshing, even if it was something that we were doing. It was so refreshing to not, our phones were in the locker, so we had no access to our phones. But
That's
it
the
was-
best part of it.
Yeah, and it was so like refreshing to actually have to think what could be done to explore, observe, experience. It gave me a whole new perspective on things. So, sometimes doing that with your children also helps you understand that how brilliant they are. They're smart.
This is absolutely, I think, one of the most interesting, exciting generations
It
that
is.
I have had the privilege of knowing and working
Yeah.
with. And I completely agree with you. The clarity of thought that still comes through is just amazing, you know.
Yeah.
And all I want to say to the children is that, you know, you know the answers. They're all
Yeah.
inside you. You know, and I think that also kind of goes back to child-led learning and a lot of child-led you know, education, where
Yeah.
we recognize the child as the leader.
Yes.
So when a child comes to you for any emotional or mental support that they're looking for, what is the approach that you take, and what is the one thing you want the child leaving the session knowing?
Firstly, I am a child too. I might be a certain age, but I feel so comfortable with them that I'm just like, this is your space. Sit as you like. You want to lie down, lie down. You want to, abuse, please go ahead and abuse. There is no like this is like
There's a
your safe
no
space
filter,
to be
yeah, yeah.
just be yourself. That just lets them also relax a lot, because a lot of people come with the perception of therapy and what to do. And the main thing that I want a child to leave with is to believe in themselves. Because I feel that the minute you start believing in yourself, you are capable of handling anything. When you are constantly questioning your own self, or if you're doing the right thing, if you're being the right person, if you're behaving in the right manner, you take away so much of yourself from it and you shy away in the corner. I think the biggest superpower nobody teaches us in our lives is to believe in ourselves, because then we don't conform, but we just know that we are capable of doing it, and no matter what happens, we'll get it.
That is so beautiful, Milind. I feel so emotional hearing that, because I feel like maybe I could also use a little bit of that message today. Parents today are really doing their best.
Yeah.
So are the children.
Yes.
So is everyone. I think we're all navigating a world that none of us have ever seen before.
Exactly.
And the one takeaway that I feel, if I could tell every parent is and family, is that the world is going to continue to look different.
Absolutely.
For the
Every
next
single day.
Yeah.
I mean, look at, if you just put yourself 10, 12, 15, 20 years back. Every single decade we've changed, right?
Yeah.
So it's never
Yeah.
going to stop changing.
So if that's one thing that we've learned from our experiences,
Yeah.
right? So having said that, I think one thing that we want to leave our parents with today, who've tuned in for this episode.
This is something I tell a lot of parents again, is that no parent or no child comes with a handbook on how they should be, right? So we are all making mistakes and learning from them. It's important to be in the moment. Trust yourself to be a good parent regardless of what others expect from you, and trust your child to be, confident in their own selves. Be there for them, and likewise have conversations, have discussions, talk to them, understand them. And I think that is how the connection bond builds, and that is how it becomes there are going to be challenges, but then it becomes a smooth sailing ride in a lot of ways.
So be present for them.
Yes.
Your presence is the biggest present.
Absolutely.
Right? And I do see that as well. I think families which are more involved in their child's journey, the involvement can come in any way. The child could be independent, the child could be needing more support. That's different. But as long as there is connection and involvement from the parents' side, I think that then feels more like working with a family rather than working with 3 different stakeholders. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Milind. This was an absolutely endearing conversation for me. I don't know how time has flown as we were speaking. And I feel very healed at the end of this conversation. So thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing these stories with us.
Thank you for having me. I think this is such an important conversation to have, to be very honest, because we forget children are our future. So,
absolutely.
Giving them that safety, that comfort, that love can ensure that, the world has a better future as well. So,
absolutely. Thank you so much, Milind. Thank you.